So now that there's some more people in here, uh, how many people have actually given the testnet wallet a go? Even if you don't have any testnet coins at the moment, have you opened it? Checked out the new changes to the the visual aspect of the wallet. And if you haven't, I'll post a link up to where it can be downloaded. Yeah, so one of the things that I would, kind of like to provide during this time is, obviously you can download the testnet wallet, but unless you've already got testnet coins from previous testing that you've done, there's not a whole lot you can do with the wallet. So me being here for the next few hours, I can send out coins to anyone that wants them. And you can just play around with them. You can send and receive. You can do staking. You can set up cold staking just to see how that flow works. Basically, just a means to familiarize yourself with what's going to be coming up. So if anyone that doesn't already have testnet coins would like some, just download the wallet from the link that I posted, and you can post your address in the channel here, and I'll send some away to you. We do have a faucet set up for the public testnet, but we didn't set one up for this particular round of segregated testing. As just something that was, we felt it was just a little bit overkill. The segregated testnet isn't something that is intended to live on past this phase of testing. It's just a short-term thing. And as far as the new UI is concerned, we have gotten recently some feedback on a few things that didn't quite line up right, or just weird little quirks. And we have seen the feedback, even if we don't directly respond in Discord. We do see the feedback, and just last night I put up some new pull requests that addressed a few of the minor visual quirks. You guys feel free to speak up with any questions you might have about the UI, about cold staking, anything relating to the 4.0 upcoming release. The 4.0 release will be a mandatory update. There are some protocol changes involved. As always, there's going to be a grace period. We typically try and keep that grace period to roughly 7 days, a week's time. Any shorter, and we get people complaining that too short. Any longer, and we get people complaining that it's too long. Because during the grace period, new consensus rules and protocol changes aren't actually in effect yet. Don't have any specific block height yet. That's something that is typically going to be solidified just before release is done. Okay, so one of the first question here is, what prompted the effort to rework the wallet from scratch? The bulk of the UI UX overhaul started as a privately funded venture. And Furzy and his team were the ones that were contracted to do that. A UI UX redesign was something that we had kind of been thinking of doing regardless, just to keep things a little bit more up to date and visually within the current century. The second question is, aside from the new quote unquote look and feel, did it give us an opportunity to get rid of some technical debt? Okay, so yeah, in terms of like dead weight or Yeah, as you put it, getting rid of like band-aids. Yeah, the redesign has allowed us to basically clean up a lot of the UI involved code. It's not an exhaustive cleanup as yet. There's still quite a bit of cleanup that could be done. The redesign was definitely a huge step towards optimization and making sure that everything is running more smoothly with the UI. And I'm sure this is a favorite of many. The third question that was asked is, quote, we kind of expect that many PIVX forks will grab the code. How difficult will it be for them to merge into their code base? In terms of difficulty, from a strictly merge perspective, it really shouldn't be all that difficult. In terms of understanding what the changes are, that is a much tougher question to answer, mainly because it depends on each individual as they view the code. I'm sure we're going to see some projects that just blindly try and apply the new UI. And while that may work, it also may not. And when I say it may not work, is change your UI, your wallet, if you don't understand the inner workings or the why and the how. And that's what we've seen a few times with just projects in general, applying updates and patches that they don't fully understand. Eric, did that answer your questions? Did you have any kind of follow-ups to those or to the responses that I gave? All right. While you work on your next question, Bitfire asks how the offline staking will work exactly without a wallet, and the honest answer is offline staking does still require a wallet. The main difference is that the wallet that it requires is not required to be a hot wallet with actual funds inside of it. The system of quote unquote cold staking is conceptually similar in layman's terms, at least, to how masternodes work. If anyone knows how masternodes are set up, you've got your hot wallet, your controller wallet, and that's usually on your personal PC. And that's the wallet that actually contains funds. The masternode itself is a wallet, usually a non UI wallet running on, say, like a VPS. And it is just made aware of the collateral transaction. The cold staking works in a very similar manner on the surface. Obviously, there's a lot more to it from the technical side of things, but on the surface, it's the same overall general idea. Regarding the question, so we can stake, for example, with a Ledger Nano S with cold staking. Yes, that is something that is entirely possible. So in that scenario, your actual funds would be stored on a Ledger or a Trezor, whatever your hardware wallet of choice may be, and you'd have like a VPS, or I'm sure there's going to be services that offer this, kind of like there's masternode hosting providers. But either your VPS or a hosting provider would be running a headless wallet, a PIVX, and it would just be set up to recognize the funds that are in your ledger that you have delegated for staking, or you've indicated that they're able to be staked by the PIVX. Your funds remain offline, but they can still be staked by the delegated PIVX or delegated service. Boris, you asked, will these wallets be doing more functions? No, they'll still be doing the same functions that any other staking wallet does. The staking rewards are not going to be changed. It's going to be cold staking gets rewarded the exact same amount as regular staking. Yeah, that's a question that's actually come up a number of times over the past week or so, and cold staking is not actually providing any new service to the network. So some people have asked, well, why isn't cold staking getting paid more? And well, that's the real answer. It's not providing anything more. Staking is staking, whether it be the new cold staking, or whether it be the staking that's been in place for the past few years. Staking is staking. There is no difference in the service it provides. Henceforth, there's no difference in the rewards that you get. Eric, your follow-up, I'll read the whole thing. Quote, so I see forks will basically fall into three categories. One, those with the expertise to merge the new 4.0 wallet well. Two, those that blindly merge it and run into problems quickly. Three, those that do not have the resources to complete the merge. And the actual question is it fair to say that means that many will become, quote, old school or, quote, left behind very quickly, aka 2 and 3, as very few will keep up with PIVX? I'm sure we're going to see a number of downstream projects that don't apply the new UI for one reason or another, or multiple reasons or another. Quite honestly, not really my concern. So Jeffrey asked, so potentially with cold staking, I could set up a headless PIVX wallet running on an Ubuntu VPS and delegate myself to stake for my friends at no financial risk to them? Yes. Additional to the question is allowing potentially for people to offer staking services? Yes. That now removes the risk of sending your PIV to others? Yes. Ambassador asks, with 4.0, version 1 ZPIV will become spendable. What will happen to version 1 and version 2 ZPIV after the new privacy protocol comes out? Will these old ZPIV coins be officially, quote, dead after 5.0 release? There will always be UI left somewhere that will allow for version 1, version 2 ZPIV coins to be spent. I'm not going to go too deep into upcoming privacy protocol. As it's been previously stated, all of our focus of late has been primarily on getting 4.0 out. We've felt that that's a really important thing to be focusing on, especially with the semi-recent downfall of the zero coin protocol. There have been people that have had their ZPIVs locked up. Initially, both version 1 and version 2. Version 2 was obviously released for spending not that long ago, but version 1 still remains locked, and that is absolutely needing of being resolved. So that's been our primary focus. What happens to ZPIV after everything is said and done, after a new privacy protocol is complete and implemented and released? It's too early to say on one hand, but on the other hand, to address your follow-up question about version 1 and 2 ZPIV being quote unquote dead or unspendable, no. Every transaction is going to be spendable, and that's just something that is going to be in our blockchain. There may not be a convenient UI for spending old depreciated zero coins in the future, but the ability to spend them in one way or another is always going to be maintained. Ashke Nexus asks, where do stake rewards go to, i.e. via cold staking? Also, doesn't the cold staking system send coins in away with a new opcode. There are some new opcodes being implemented for use with cold staking. The staking rewards go to the same address that they originated from at the time of staking. There's no real change from how traditional staking works. Expanding on that, there's been some questions about how would a staking pool be set up with cold staking, because a lot of staking pools they work similar to like a mining pool where the rewards go to the pool operator, and then after the operator takes their cut, the funds are distributed out to the participants. That model will not work with cold staking because the pool operators never have access to any funds. The coin owners maintain ownership 100% of the time. Bitfire asks, could we use a masternode also as a headless PIVX wallet for cold staking? Yes, you can. Yeah, that was actually one of the very first setups that I tried during our internal testing of cold staking was let me get one of my masternodes, my testnet masternodes, to also be set up as a delegatee for cold staking. And yeah, it works. The fact that it's a masternode has no bearing or effect on cold staking. Jeffrey asks a rather important question. Would existing private keys be covered by the wallet's upcoming HD backup support? No. There is a potential upgrade path for non-HD wallets to become HD wallets. That is relatively new in upstream Bitcoin. That particular functionality is not going to be included initially for our introduction of HD wallets in the PIVX wallet. So if you're creating a brand new wallet, it'll have the HD functionality and the HD seed words for backup. Pre-existing wallets, however, will remain non-HD, and that's obviously going to be detailed in the release notes when those are put out. Eric asks in regards to HD wallets when they come out. If you've got a pre-existing wallet and you would like to take advantage of the HD wallets, do you just send all your coins to a new address? Yeah, that's one way of doing it. You would create a brand new wallet.dat file. When the new wallet is created, it's an HD wallet. It supports the deterministic keys and the seed phrase backup. So yeah, you could just send funds to an address generated with that wallet. Jeffrey again with the important question. What would you say is the top new feature that users should look forward to in this release? That is a tough one to answer. It's completely subjective. For me, it's not glamorous, but the ability to finally spend version 1 ZPIV, that is of paramount importance. Like I said earlier, I'd say that is probably the single most important feature of the new wallet is the ability to finally spend those version 1 zero coins. From just a general user experience standpoint, for someone that is not concerned with version 1 ZPIV, maybe they didn't have any. After all, it was only available for a very, very short period of time. The overall UI and the options and the layout that it provides, I think, is a very, it's a feature to get excited about. Jeffrey, you mentioned dark mode. Yes, I absolutely love dark mode. I hate bright applications. So having dark mode for me is I don't think I'll ever look at the non-dark mode ever again. Rhubarb asks, how much of a change and to what extent is our proof of stake quote unquote better in this new version? Hard to judge, really. There have been some performance improvements made to proof of stake protocol. namely surrounding the difficulty calculations and the block timings. It is better, but I probably wouldn't use that term. It's more efficient, more appropriate way to describe it. Bitfire asks, when the new privacy protocol will start developing? The answer to that is development started on the new privacy protocol quite some time ago. And when I say development, I mean research, conceptual verifications, conceptual soundness. That's all part of development. As far as implementation code, that is not started. It won't start until after 4.0 is released. That's a timeline that we've mentioned before, and we're sticking to it. We're focused on 4.0 right now and getting that out as soon as possible. It doesn't really make much sense to take time away from that goal to work on something that is not going to be included in that goal. We're a relatively small team as far as development teams go, so there just aren't enough hours in the day or people on the team to be spreading resources across multiple different goals, multiple different milestones. Ambassador asks, are there any conversations with Cave Scepter as a possible addition to the current core dev team? Yeah, he was, or that idea was brought up to him, gosh, when was that? About a month and a half, 2 months ago. And at the time, he was just getting into some personal obligations, would not allow him to make any time commitment. So it kind of stalled there. But that brings up a related issue. We don't really even have the budget to be hiring anybody else. We don't even have the budget to be paying ourselves. I mean, we can offer a little. That's something that is eventually going to need to be addressed if we're ever going to expect to actually hire more people. All the devs that are working right now are paid a salary that, quite frankly, is not enough. But we stick around because we love what we do. We love working together, and we love the project and the product. Eric asks, will we be making PIVX quantum computing proof in 5.0? No, because there's no such thing as quantum proof. Anyone that says that their product is quantum proof is basically giving you a load of crap. On the subject of quantum resistance, things like private keys and address relationships are already highly quantum resistant due to the AES encryption that they use. Hashing algorithms like SHA-256 and even Quark, which was used earlier in our chain, there hasn't been any real evidence that even the beefiest quantum computers in existence, which granted are extremely narrow focus in what they can actually do, there's no evidence that even those, if they were to be tasked at circumventing hashing algorithms like SHA-256 or Quark or X11 or whatever cryptocurrency hashing algorithm that is in use, there's no evidence that they're even anywhere close to being able to achieve that. It's been a while, and Igor asked if I can touch base on downstream forked coins grabbing our code, and I assume I'm going to make the assumption that that means whether it's the UI or the underlying network and protocol changes, and using it for their purposes. What are the challenges with that? And he goes on to state that he owns a couple coins which are forked from PIVX, and he's wondering if he should be worried. I can't really answer whether or not you should be worried. I don't pay attention too much to downstream forks. I simply don't have the time to pay attention to them. There's a few, I keep touch with, most notably Zenzo, because we have a working alliance with them. That's really the only one that I pay any mind to. Whether or not you should be worried, you'd need to analyze whoever's doing the developing and judge for yourselves whether or not you think they're capable or not capable. Jeffrey and Eric both ask basically the same question. So I'm just going to pick one to read. Eric, I've read a number of your questions already, so I'm going to use Jeffrey's version of the question. Perhaps in the future, a change to block rewards to allow more treasury funds to extend the funding to development. And Eric did, in his phrasing, add, if something like that has ever been discussed within the team. I can say, yeah, it has been discussed. The idea of doing something with block rewards has been discussed. Beyond that, it's not something that we ever really want to pursue. Changing block rewards is a very dangerous path. Completely disrupts the stated plan of block emissions. It completely disrupts the emission rate. And even if you're emitting the same amount of coins, but just redistributing the splits, it's a very disruptive thing to do. So it's not something that we ever want to do unless there's, like in the case when ZPIV staking came out, there was a technical barrier that required the block rewards to be normalized to round integers, or the split between block rewards. There was a requirement there because ZPIV staking did not work with anything except round integers. But changing the block rewards or changing the block reward split to overcome a financial situation, I personally don't feel I don't feel that would be justified. In addition to not justified, I think that could be very devastating. Bitfire asks, so we are expecting the new version 4 wallet to be released sometime in about 2 weeks period. I wouldn't make that expectation. It's in final testing. I want to make absolutely clear that the figure of quote unquote 2 weeks is not anything that we as a team are saying. Moving on from that, and if so, the Ledger Nano would also be updated at the same time. I have no clue when or if Ledger will update their software. That's not something that we can control. On the note of Ledger support, however, we obviously have tools like PET4L that will allow somebody to initiate transactions that are, interact with funds that are on a Ledger device, regardless of whether or not they have Ledger software. There is an effort from Random Zebra to basically write a new piece of software that combines both PET4L and the simple PIVX masternode tool into one piece of software, with the addition of the ability to manage cold staking. When that's going to be released, I don't know. It's still very early in development. Touching back on like block rewards and treasury and budget, Jeffrey did mention that there are tons of new proposals, and unfortunately not enough in the budget or the treasury to fund them. And you are absolutely correct. There's not enough money to go around. People either need to accept it, or as I wrote on the forums last night, tighten up their belts a little bit and see if they can achieve their goals with less funding. The development team has certainly been a great example of doing just that. It's no secret I get 6,000 PIV a month as a developer. That's less than minimum wage for the amount of time that I'm putting in. I could go work at McDonald's and get paid more. Phaser asked, will Stay PIVX 4.0 be compatible with BlockNet? I don't know. A lot of these, compatibilities, interactions, questions that pertain to systems outside of our direct involvement. It's not really something that we pay attention to. I haven't had any contact personally with BlockNet on the basis of compatibility, so I don't know what the requirements are. For all I know, we could be compatible already. Okay, I see one address got posted in the chat, so I will send you out some coins, and you should have them. By the way, PIVX is fast. Phaser followed up with BlockTX requirements supporting op check lock time verify CLTV. Yeah, we have that. We've had that for quite a bit now. As far as an a stock JSON RPC interface, I do believe we are mostly covered with what Bitcoin Core has in its JSON RPC, at least to the extent of what I would imagine would be required for an exchange interface. So of the people that are listening in, how many of you have had the chance to actually test out cold staking yet? It hasn't been available for too long. Even though the segregated testnet binaries were released about a week ago, the availability of cold staking, that option wasn't activated until just recently. It's something that we'd love to get feedback on from a user's perspective. Yeah, it's no secret that users and developers don't always see things in the same light. We recognize that it's the users that are really the ones that should be able to actually use these kind of things. So getting feedback is something that we would like to get sooner rather than later, because obviously once 4.0 goes to release, outside of any kind of like critical bug, it's not a trivial thing to address feedback and get a new release version pushed out. There's a process involved, so we prefer to get feedback before going to release rather than a day after. Tarek, you're making me switch channels. I'm trying to keep all text related to the voice chat into the PIVX testnet channel. But you might consider looking at cold staking, even if you're content with staking in the more traditional manner. Cold staking is more secure because staking requires a wallet to be running. In the event that someone gains access physically to your computer, cold staking is going to be much more secure than regular staking, mainly because the funds can be held elsewhere. I'll briefly mention another UI UX thing that has been included in the redesign of the wallet, and that relates to the setting up of masternodes. Pretty much gone are the days of having to go in and manually edit the masternode.conf file. You can get a new masternode set up pretty much completely within the UI, and that includes the sending of the exact amount of coins needed for collateral, creating the label, creating the entry into the conf file. It's all done from the UI now. Brian asks, what am I looking forward to after this release? To be perfectly honest, I am looking forward to having a bit of a reprieve from the past few months worth of pushing and pushing and pushing. It's been quite frantic, so I'm actually looking forward to having that weight lifted off of my chest. Aside from that, We've got some plans for a 4.1 release. Uh, it's something that, as currently planned, is not going to be a mandatory update. It'll be completely optional. Um, Obviously, any update is always recommended, but there won't be, the same sense of urgency like there is with mandatory updates. And 4.1 is going to be focusing a lot on further code cleanups, further performance optimizations. So I'm actually really looking forward to that. Optimizations and code cleanup, it's something that is always important, but often falls to the wayside when more pressing matters are at hand. Yeah, when a developer says they look forward to code cleanup, I think it's rather a weird thing to say. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird. I know I'm weird. Bitfire asks, are there any plans to somehow reduce the size of the blockchain, which is now sitting at currently around 18 gigabytes? Maybe compression, elastic block size. There's not anything that can really be done for blocks that have already passed. Their size is their size, and adding in any kind of additional compression, like data compression, would really just introduce more potential for things to go wrong with decompressing that data, which would need to happen anyways. As far as elastic block sizes, little known fact, blocks are naturally elastic as is. I know elastic block sizes is a phrase that's been tossed about, and we've even used it. What it means in the actual context is that the maximum size of a block is variable. Currently, our maximum block size is 2 megabytes. Well, if there's not 2 megabytes worth of transactions, a block is not magically just inflated to 2 megabytes. It scales down already. That's something that already happens. Phaser asks a question that I've seen a few times in the new UI. In coin control, the after fee value copyable. Currently, it is not. It is something that I was working on just last night. I don't know if it is going to be included in the 4.0 release, or if it is going to need to be postponed until 4.1. That really just depends on basically how much I change the send dialog and the coin control dialog. I was working on some stuff that was quite extensive in its changes, mainly revolving around fee calculations, what values are displayed given variable fees, yada yada yada. So we'll see what I can get in for 4.0, if anything. Yeah, so the 4.0 wallet that includes the master branch if you compile on your own. The option to copy the after fee amount from coin control is currently not implemented, but it's being looked at. Something else that's I had seen asked a few times previously is it's a feature that Bitcoin has, when sending a transaction, and that is subtracting the transaction fee from the amount being sent. My personal feelings on that feature are on the fence. I can definitely understand and recognize where that would be used. I don't think me personally, I don't think it's as important of a feature to the point where it should be taking time away from other things. Phaser, you mentioned the new UI doesn't have 8 decimals. The number of decimals being displayed in at the top can be configured. In the sending amount, like the amount that you enter when you want to initiate a transaction, you're correct. It's limited to 7 currently. That's being fixed. Jackie Man, if you're around, I know you've had a little personal experience with the new UI. Did you have any questions that you wanted to ask? Maybe just get some questions coming from within the team. Phaser and Bitfire ask similar questions. Are there any UI pictures or commands to manage cold staking? Is what Phaser asks, and Bitfire essentially the same thing. Is there going to be some guide on how to set up cold staking? There is a command reference for the RPC side of setting up cold staking in the actual pull request, and also there's a very, very detailed wiki article that Random Zebra wrote up that goes into further detail of cold staking. As far as the UI side of things go, will there be a guide to use the UI to set up cold staking? There should be. Maybe we can check with Chad or Zeddy, or one of our more prominent YouTube folk to get a guide together, a visual guide. Yeah. As far as actually setting up cold staking on the UI, the UI side of things, it's fairly straightforward. However, it is a multi-step process. There's information that you need to get from whatever node that is going to be the delegatee, the actual cold staking node. So you need to get a staking address. If you're using like a VPS that doesn't have any kind of GUI, well, you obviously need to use the RPC to get that address. Now, if you're using like a secondary computer, maybe like an old laptop or an old desktop that's just always plugged in, always on, running a UI, there is already a UI interface for generating this staking address. But it is, again, it is going to be a multi-step process. There's just no real way around that. MC Tao, probably completely butchering that pronunciation, asks, is cold staking some sort of DPoS system where you vote on a delegate? No, it is not DPoS. DPoS is a consensus protocol system. Cold staking is not. Proof of stake is our consensus protocol. Cold staking is basically the same thing. There's no voting involved. No voting involved. So it is not DPoS. A follow up to that is, so it's locking up coins. No, it's not locking up coins. You're free to send those coins whenever you desire, just like regular staking. Cold staking does give rewards. Staking is staking, whether it be new cold staking or traditional staking. Staking is staking. The rewards are the same, whether you stake with the traditional method or with cold staking. The cold staking added feature is just a different way to stake, but it does all the same things. So if you're coming in a little bit later into the chat, this was one of the questions that was asked early on regarding cold staking. It's been answered in the chat, but I'm gonna duplicate it in voice so it can be picked up in the recording. Cold staking does still require a node / wallet to be online. However, that online node wallet does not need to have actual spendable coins in it. It's essentially not a hot wallet. Tarek asks, this quote-unquote node that is online doing the cold staking, can it handle multiple wallets? I assume what you mean by that is, can a cold staking node be configured to handle the staking from multiple staking addresses? Yes, it can. Tarek brings up the concern of a cold staking node staking coins from an address where the owner of the coins has since lost the wallet.dat file, and for whatever reason doesn't have a backup, doesn't have the private keys. Is that a possibility? Yeah, of course that's a possibility. There's not really any way around it. Now also do keep in mind that the 4.0 wallet will be releasing with HD functionality, so backup seed phrases. I touched on this a little bit earlier. I think it was before you joined the voice chat. Since HD wallets are going to be a reality for PIVX starting in 4.0, the situations of losing a wallet.dat file or losing the private key or losing all your backups is, I would hope, would be a little less severe. It was brought up again earlier in the chat, but pool operators that are wanting to set up like a cold staking pool, they're gonna have to be very convincing with their billing model, because they're not going to be able to just simply take a cut of the rewards. So they're going to need to be paid in advance, I would assume. I don't know how well that's going to work. I personally wouldn't invest anything into that. The important thing to take away from that, however, is your existing funds, the funds that are actually being staked, are never at risk from like a malicious pool operator. And Jackyman does bring up a pretty good point, or at least a valid point with regards to a cold staker that is staking coins for an address where the owner has lost the wallet, doesn't have backups, or doesn't have the private key, or their seed phrase. Basically a nuclear situation where there's just no hope of ever recovering those funds. The cold staker can just de-whitelist the staking address. It was brought up that the ability to basically pool in cold staking, it is great for a group of friends. People that know each other personally. They're not doing it as like a business where the person running the cold staking node is trying to turn a profit from it from a business sense. I honestly don't think cold staking pools as a business model is going to be all that efficient. Like I said, there are going to be I'm sure there's going to be staking pools that offer this as a service. Who knows how much they're going to try and charge for it, and again, I personally wouldn't pay anything for it. It was asked if this system is already active in any other coin that I know of. The idea of offline or cold or some form of staking coins where there's no risk to the actual coin holder, it's not a new idea. And I think there's been a couple of implementations of that idea in the past. I don't have any specific examples. As far as I know, this particular implementation, which is a little bit more robust on the low end of things, how everything works on a protocol level. As far as I know, this is the first of this implementation. John M is bringing up some questions about like centralization of staking power with cold staking. Yeah, there is a possibility for if you had 15 people who are currently staking on their home computers that choose to go with a let's just call a future cold staking pool to do the staking for them. Yes, that's a point of centralization. With that said, the process of staking does actually carry with it some computational requirements and computational burden. I don't think that this centralization would reach the point of being narrow focused to where the majority of the entire network's staking power is going to be in one node or any one service. Simply because the operational overhead to maintain that node would far exceed any kind of profits that they could get. John M, to basically recap, exchanges that have started offering like staking services or staking their balances. That's something that we've seen an increase of overall in the crypto scene. It's nothing specific to PIVX really. How that kind of change of behavior pertains to cold staking and the differences is really that because the actual staker never has access to the funds, I don't know how well that could be marketed. It's like with the existing model, these exchanges They're just basically staking the funds that would otherwise be used for exchanging purposes. But with gold staking, they don't actually receive any of those funds. I don't really know what the validation for or the motive to offer that would be. Yeah, it could be a PR thing. I think that would be a pretty big gamble though, because it would definitely be a much higher technical burden on the exchange for no functional benefit other than PR. Ambassador asks if I could give some information regarding proof of stake upgrades that are coming in 4.0, like the time protocol version 2. The new time protocol is related to ensuring, not ensuring, but increasing the accuracy of the block spacing. We advertise 60-second blocks, and when you see a cryptocurrency, whether it be Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, PIVX, whatever, you see the advertised block time. For us, it's advertised as 60 seconds. For Bitcoin, it's 10 minutes. Those block times are obviously not, or maybe it's not obvious, but those block times are not hard set. The time between blocks is inherently variable. The block time that you see advertised, it's the target time. It's what the difficulty algorithm always tries to adjust difficulty to maintain as close as it possibly can to the target time. The time protocol version 2, basically it introduces some improvements and changes in how the difficulty algorithm attempts to maintain that target time of 60 seconds. To the question of can you extract the HT seed from the current address, or do you have to move your funds? Addresses themselves don't have seeds. The HD wallet, when it's released, will have a seed phrase that can be used to deterministically recreate addresses if need be. So each address that is created is directly associated with the seed. You can't extract the seed from an already existing address because, well, mainly the HD functionality just doesn't exist at the moment in the PIVX wallet. And I did touch on this earlier, but I will restate it. The only way to get HD wallet functionality is to create a new wallet, at least for this initial release. I'm going to answer these last two questions out of order. Will the seed functionality also be in the mobile wallet? It already is. Both the Android and the iOS wallets are already supported by backup seed phrases. Not really related to 4.0, but Ambassador asks, is there an option to make a separate proposal specifically for like a community dev fund? Yeah, it's possible. Phaser asks, cold staking from the mobile wallet. Not initially. That would be added work to be done to both the mobile wallets that is, as far as I know, not currently being done. It would need to be something that would be added into the mobile wallets at a later date. And when I say cold staking and mobile, I'm specifically intending the mobile wallet would be the wallet that holds the funds, not the wallet that is actually doing the staking. Mobile wallets actually participating in the staking process is not something I envision seeing anytime soon, if at all. Question was asked, trying to find a post with all the features included in 4.0, and where's the best place to find that? There is no such like PR post made just yet. Mainly because 4.0 is still being worked on. It's not completely finished. So at least for the time being, the best place to find out what has been put into the 4.0 release as of now would be GitHub. I just posted a link to the 4.0 milestone, and I do understand that not everyone is comfortable or accustomed to reading code. And we do try our best to make sure that at least the initial descriptions on pull requests are understandable. You don't need to read know how to read code to read a description. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Regarding the fork alliance and if that's already active, I have no clue. That's not something that we as the development team are involved with at all. I think that's spearheaded by Cryptosi. Does anyone have any further questions pertaining to 4.0? I know I said I'd be around doing this for about 3 to 4 hours, but playing it by ear a bit. Things are starting to slow down a little bit right now. So if there's not really any further questions, or if questions start being duplicated from earlier, I do have some work that I could be doing, and so if there's not really anything else, I can call it for the stream and get back to actual work. I am going to call it at least the audio and the streaming. I do thank you guys, anyone. Everyone that joined to listen in and ask questions. Thanks for your participation. I do encourage people to download the testnet wallet, give it a go, and if you need coins to test, sending, receiving, staking, cold staking, setting up a masternode, or at least you don't need to actually follow through and set up the actual masternode, but if you wanted to test out the new UI for configuring a masternode, by all means do so. We can get you the coins to do that on the testnet. They're not worth anything. You can't sell them anywhere. It's just something to play around with, and I do definitely encourage that. And we would very much like any feedback. If you do need testnet coins, just paste a testnet address into the PIVX testnet channel, and I will get you some coins as soon as I can when I see addresses. And on that note, my cat is also reaffirming to me that it's time for me to get off the computer for a few minutes. So again, thank you guys for popping in, and hopefully I can do this again in the near future for both 4.0 or any other features that we may be working on in the future. Until then, see you guys.